Good morning, everyone. And well, I should also say good afternoon because we have people on from Europe. We obviously have people here from the Northeast, and I think we have a few people from California. It's so wonderful to welcome you to the 14th annual MALSI event. This is the second year. It is MALSI Plus, a virtual event. And as of this morning, I think we had over 500, close to 550 registrants. And the networking tables, as you know, were all pretty full. So I think it's going to be a real fun event. Thanks to the program committee, we have planned a phenomenal event with great content, networking, and poster pitches. We're really thankful to our sponsors who stuck by us in this difficult time. And, you'll have a chance to meet them as well. This is a new platform. In fact, we're supporting a Harvard spin-out. A couple of Harvard Business School grads have taken some time off to create this platform, Goldcast. It's really good, very reliable from how we've been using it for the Hub Cures events leading up to it. But if you can, very briefly, you can jump around. There's different activities. So you can see the drop-down menus at the top. Right now, we're on the stage. You can look at the agenda. You can always go back to the agenda. That's a good place to go to allow you to go, to different parts of the event. There's networking. If you want to meet sponsors, you go to the sponsor event, and they all have booths. And then the booths tab is where the poster sessions are and the poster pitches are. So you'll get a chance to go meet the 19 poster presenters. And then the people tab is where you can go to see who else is on live at the event. And you can connect with people individually. You can chat with them. You can do video chats with them if you want. And I think Curious Reactor has set up a bunch of meetings for you prior. You can find time to meet one-on-one. So very easy to wander around. Don't feel confident to wander around. You can even wander over to networking while the main stage event is going. So from all of us at Mass Ventures and our logistics partner, Innovation Studio, have a fun and productive event. I would now like to introduce Andrew Merkin from Burns Levinson, who will introduce the Investing Innovation panel. Have a great day.
Great, thank you, Vineet. I'd like to say nice to see everybody, but the only thing I see right now is myself in my beautiful downtown Needham home office, which is kind of a difficult way to start the day. Anyway, I am Andy Merkin. I'm a partner at the law firm Burns Levinson in Boston, where I co-chair our life sciences practice. Thank you, Vineet and team, for allowing us to be involved once again in MALSI. We've been involved at different levels over the past number of years, including as sponsors, as panel moderators, and in other capacities. And it's just a terrific event every year. Last year's, which was also virtual, was terrific as well. I do remember this time last year doing a similar intro from a vacation home, or vacation rental rather, in Cape Cod. So we haven't made a whole lot of progress in terms of getting back together in person, but I think everybody's on the right track and we'll be there soon. So as I mentioned, I'm the co-chair of our life sciences practice. The firm itself is 130 lawyers strong. I'm on the corporate side. Our life sciences practice constitutes about 20 of those 130 lawyers, fairly evenly split between corporate and IP. We tend to work in the lower middle market and middle market, representing entrepreneurs, startups, growth stage companies, as well as investment banks and investors in capital raising transactions, investment banking transactions, as well as a growing number of sell-side M&A deals, as a lot of our life science clients, particularly in the healthcare IT and healthcare services space, digital health, are growing up and being acquired in this very, very active market. In terms of sort of my sweet spot, tends to be in the pre-revenue to $100 million revenue for companies, as well as for deal size, sort of in the 5 to 100 million on the M&A size, and venture capital deals. I work on everything from as low as 500,000 to 30 or 40 million. With that, I would like to introduce our panel moderator, Steve London. Now, Steve and I actually have very similar backgrounds, as you'll hear. I'm sure Steve will give a nice overview of himself and his firm. And some may think that it is a little bit awkward for one lawyer to be introducing another lawyer. And ordinarily, I'd say, yeah, that's probably the case. Not here, though. Steve and I have actually known each other for well more than 20, even 25 years now. He is truly one of my favorite Boston-based lawyers at a firm other than mine. He and I have worked together as co-counsel on transactions and clients. We've worked opposite each other. We often will bring each other in to help out in if the circumstances make sense. So no awkwardness at all. Steve is a terrific, terrific guy, and I am sure will do a wonderful job, as always, moderating today's panel, as he does with other panels in which he and I have been involved together. So with that, I will turn it over to Steve to kick off the day.
All right. Thank you very much, Andy. Those are some very warm and kind words, and back at you on all of those. It really is nice to be introduced by a good friend and colleague of many years. So just a couple of words about me, and then we'll introduce my panelists. As Andy said, I am a partner with the law firm Troutman Pepper in our Boston office. We're very happy to be a sponsor this year once again. I've been working with entrepreneurs in the life sciences industry and their companies and those who finance them for my entire career. Troutman Pepper is a full-service law firm with 1,100 lawyers in 23 offices throughout the United States. With over 100 of our lawyers focused on the life sciences area, we combine our extensive industry domain experience with our transactional expertise to guide our clients in corporate finance, mergers and acquisitions, licensing, protection of intellectual property, regulatory matters, commercialization, and growth. We work with our entrepreneurs from the very startup, whether they are university spinouts, serial entrepreneurs, or perhaps first-timers who are just getting something going in their lab or their kitchen tables. We've represented and handled hundreds of early-stage businesses, completed hundreds of VC financings, and many, many, many lucrative liquidity exits over recent years. We also represent big pharma and some of the most notable med device companies in the world. And we use that experience and knowledge to guide our emerging companies to help position them for strategic relationships and potential exits with those industry leaders. We're very, very pleased to have quite a distinguished panel this morning to discuss investing in innovation. They are investors in life sciences, but we have strategically identified them as having a wide variety of approaches to investing in early stage companies. I'd like to invite my panelists to join me on the stage now, please, and say a few words about yourself, your background, and the fund or focus of your recent investing activities. So I see Andrea, Christine, Avak, Tom. I think we have everybody. That's great. Maybe Andrea, if we could start with you, and then Christine, Avak, and Tom.
Thank you, Stephen. And good morning and good afternoon to everybody. I am Andrea Jackson from Northpond Ventures. Northpond is a science-driven life science venture capital fund, and we invest in 3 segments of the market. The first would be on the therapeutic side. The second would be life science tools and diagnostics. And our third vector is something we call convergent technologies, which is basically technology that can take anything from improving the R&D sector all the way through to patient care. We're scientifically centered and driven, and we look for the best teams and the best opportunities to really transform human health. And it's a pleasure to be here this morning with my panelist.
Thank you, Andrea. Christine?
Thank you, Steve. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me. I work as a partner at MRL Ventures Fund, which is the corporate venture arm of US Merck, the pharmaceutical company. We're focused exclusively on early stage preclinical therapeutic companies to invest in, but any therapeutic area and any modality. And unlike some of the venture funds, we actually look for things that Merck is not doing. So we don't necessarily follow along with Merck's strategy today. What we hope to do is invest in those really new areas of biology, new targets, new approaches, new modalities, things that we think that Merck will really benefit from in that sort of biotech 5 to 10 year timeframe. So we have sort of freedom and flexibility to look at any therapeutic area and any modality. My personal background was a scientist originally in neuroscience, and then moved into business development, corporate strategy, both at small biotechs and big pharma. Spent about 3.5 years as a chief business officer at a biotech before coming into ventures, originally at Novartis Venture Fund for about 4 years before coming here to MRL Ventures Fund, where I've been here now 4 years.
Great. Thank you. Avak?
Hi. Hello, everyone. I'm Avak Kahvejian. I'm a general partner at Flagship Pioneering. We conceive, create, resource, and develop bioplatforms directed at life sciences broadly and specifically in human health and sustainability. We've been at it for about 20 years, creating completely new companies based on innovations that emerge from our in-house ideation and invention exercises. These companies include maybe the first microbiome company like Seres Therapeutics, Moderna, the very well-known mRNA company, and many other of these programmable bioplatforms that we like to create and develop over time to address multiple diseases and multiple therapeutic areas simultaneously.
Thank you. Tom?
Thanks, Steve, and hello, everyone. My name is Tom Ascherboni. I'm the Chief Investment Officer here at Big Idea Ventures. We're a multi-stage venture fund investing in the future of food and food technologies. We primarily focus on alternative proteins, so plant and cell-based, fermentation-based meat, dairy, seafood analogs. We're also getting more involved in the supply chain and logistics of food and how we're going to better feed 10 billion people in a few years. My background, spent most of my career in private equity, venture capital, started out in public accounting, and before joining Big Idea Ventures, I was helping run the corporate venture team inside of Tyson Foods. I did that for just under 3 years.
Great, thank you. So let me perhaps set the stage a little bit. For our panel is focused on investing in innovation, and each one of you, I think, have a different approach to it, and I want to hear more about that. But if we look at what happened in 2020 and now what's going on in 2021 in the venture capital finance world, 2020 was a very, very active, exciting year, despite the pandemic, or maybe as a result of the pandemic. But 2021 is now even far exceeding what happened in 2020 in both the total amount being invested, new capital being raised by funds, and in actually just the number of deals that are getting done. Some of those statistics, I think, are a little bit skewed because the number of mega rounds, $100 million plus rounds, continues to rise. So that tends to perhaps skew this a little bit, but a lot of money is still going into very early stage companies. Life sciences is one of those that are at the pretty high on the list in terms of deal activity. I think some of that is driven by the IPO market, the SPAC market, M&A exit generally, which have been so frothy. They tend to, drive more investment in companies because the exit opportunities are there. And so I'd like you to kind of think a little bit about and talk a little bit about where you see us going for the remainder of 2021. But with a real focus on what do you look for when you are deciding to invest? What do you look for either in the technology, in the founders, in the company, if there is one at that point? Maybe share some thoughts that you have about that to kick us off. And I believe that each one of you have a really different perspective on that. And Avak, through Flagship Pioneering, I know that is at this point now a really different model than a traditional venture capital fund used to be. Maybe we could start with you to share some more thoughts about that process of what you look for and how you decide to grow a company, and then we'll go to our other panelists for their perspectives.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. And as you noted, we may be a little bit of an outlier in that we don't see ourselves as investors, but more as innovators with money. And the things that we like to ideate around and that we like to spend our time on are essentially what we are now calling bioplatforms. And these are technologies that have broad applicability in biology. They are a core biotechnology that has the ability to address many, many disease areas potentially, and ideally are programmable in such a way that I won't say it's not good to use the word easy in biology, but programmable in such a way that you can redirect them readily to different areas quite easily with one core platform, one core capability, one core set of expertise under one roof. And Moderna is a good example of that. I only raise it because it's an exemplar of the kinds of things that we get excited about and that we spend most of our time on ideating around, and the kinds of models that we pursue. We do this all internally. We have innovation teams, ideation teams. I lead one of those teams. I'm what we call an origination partner, and my team members are all scientists, as am I. And we thrive on the iterative group invention process, if you will. And we try to converge on what we call venture hypotheses that would fit that bill. Do we have a potential for a bioplatform? Is it novel? Is it in the white space? Is it something really that's distinguishable or very differentiated from other platforms? And does it have that broad applicability I was discussing? And we run these exercises internally in parallel. Multiple projects like these are going on. And we only put pipette to pipette tip when we've seen and created a broad vision for that platform. We will then go into a process of prototyping the company and the idea. And it will involve doing some of those really important feasibility experiments and getting a sense for whether we can get that breadth that we want out of the platform. And we'll finance that to the tune of about $2 million, let's say. You could look at it like the equivalent of a seed stage company in the investment world. And that'll be led and staffed by my team members and scientists that we hire in that have subject matter expertise around that particular platform. And we'll do those experiments and actually look at it in a very dispassionate way. Unlike most entrepreneurs who are going to focus on something with passion, we will have to be both passionate and dispassionate about the project because we have concurrent projects going on and we don't want to dedicate time and resources to the wrong one. And at the end of that process, we'll look back at what we've accomplished and whether we did what we thought we were going to do, or did we evolve it into some other area. And that is the point at which we'll decide, should we finance this company in earnest and put even more resources toward it? and dedicate tens of millions of dollars towards launching a company around it. And again, that'll be our monies, it'll be our team creating that entity and growing that entity from 3 to 5 people to imagine 40, 50, 60 people over the course of 2 to 3 years. And then it's at the Series B stage where we'll invite other investors to come along with us on the journey of instantiating this platform and making it a reality for the world. So that's our process, and it's very, I would say, unique in that we invent. We have IP that's generated at Flagship and a number of hundreds of patent applications every year and issued patents that are emerging from Flagship and our partners as inventors. We are shepherding these companies as part of the management team, mixed in with the management team to ensure their success and to apply our many learnings about platform company value creation throughout the journey. And we, I would argue, have never diligenced really a deal in our lives. It's more about ideating, inventing, and letting a company evolve to be the best version of itself.
Great, thank you, Avak. Again, a very different approach than the traditional venture capital model. Maybe contrast that, Andrea. You know, you and I are working with a similar, a portfolio company of yours, a client of ours. That was a very different model, but talk a little bit more about Northpond and what you look for when you try to put your money to work.
Absolutely. And I think it's, by the way, fantastic that the ecosystem has different models, right? Because not every entrepreneur or market or opportunity is going to need the same funding structure or funding partners. So I think it's great that we're able to discuss this today, the diversity of those approaches. Northpond takes an approach that is centered on the science and the competitive advantage that that platform or technology could bring to whatever market application they have. So we tend to look for opportunities based in our investment thesis that we can really gain strong conviction on, not just on the strength of the technology, but the strength of the team. And we would measure that strength based on a couple of factors. One is the competitive and sustainable differentiation of that platform. So how does it differentiate against competitors today, potential competitors tomorrow, new entrants of the technology that could be adjacent? So we sort of take a few different ways where we look at the strength of the technology. And then we really do focus on the team structure. So how are the founders wired? What are they thinking about? What's motivating them? Why are they doing this? Do they have the skill set that's going to help them get to where they want to go? Or do they have the self-awareness or capability set to say, hey, I've got 3 or 4 of the people on the bus that I need, but I need 2 or 3 more, and here's what that looks like. So that sort of dialogue with who the team is and how they're wired and how they think about bringing the technology forward is maybe the second way that we think about strength. And then the third piece is really about how do we capitalize the business? So we tend to do a lot of syndication in the ecosystem, and that can be with other venture capital partners. It can be with strategic venture capital teams. We really sometimes have to ask ourselves, who are the right investors for these companies? Who's the best capital to help them win? Because when we invest in a company, we are partnering with that company, and it's a two-way street. So we always ask and answer the question, are we the right investors for you? And are you the right investment for Northpond? How do we see the world? What do we think the technology can do? And how do we really embrace the challenges and opportunities ahead to reach its full potential? So it's a pretty collaborative process. We're very agile in the way that we run our processes, so we can move with a fair amount of agility through our investment process, and that can mean a very short and compressed time frame for diligence, or it can mean cultivating a relationship for a number of months or years until we think that it's the right time for us to partner, and vice versa. So it tends to have some flexibility there. Maybe the other thing to note is, because our thesis is really based on what are the best technologies out there that can have a sustainable competitive differentiation with amazing founders, we are stage agnostic. So we will do everything from a seed to Series A, all the way through to some growth capital. So sometimes the best opportunity in our thesis shows up and they've had 2 pivots and they're on a growth trajectory now and they need growth capital. And sometimes they show up as a team with an incredible idea and looking for their first institutional capital. So we have a large range, and in that we learn a lot and learn with our founders as well in each of these markets.
Great, thank you. Christine, how about your thoughts, followed by Tom?
Sure. We actually have a very similar process to Andrea and Northpond, with the exception that we're very focused on early stage. So we really only look at those companies that are in the seed, Series A, preclinical stage, but with a very similar sort of view as to how are we going to assess them. And like Andrea was saying, I view it as 3 pillars. There's science, which is necessary but not sufficient. There's management, which is oftentimes more important than the science. And then there's the financing. How is this going to be capitalized, and are the right people around the table to ensure that the company is going to have enough capital to get to the really important validating milestones for this set of questions and this stage of that company. We do have the advantage being part of Merck that from a non-confidential, when I get a non-confidential presentation, or when I'm talking to those scientific founders about what they might want to be doing, I can then reach into my organization and find experts pretty quickly that can sort of give me the lay of the land, since they are breathing it and eating it and sleeping it for whatever that particular therapeutic area or target or topic might be. So, if I have a question about protein chemistry, I have those folks. If I have a question about antibodies, I have those folks. CMC, I have those folks. Tox, I have those folks. So it just allows us to really quickly go in and kind of get a 10,000-foot overview, sort of diligence on the founders oftentimes, because our scientists are usually very connected in with the folks. And I can kind of hone in on where are the gaps, where are the key questions, where are the things that I still need to have an understanding on and a diligence and do some additional diligence on, and helps to really think about, well, what are the questions that need to be answered during this round of financing? Because we're not trying to fill the immediate pipeline of Merck, we're really thinking about this as what is the unmet needs here? How is this going to actually deliver something to patients that they don't have today? How is it going to improve patient health in that reasonable time frame, not today, but years from now? And then our process is also pretty quick. We make decisions as a team, as a venture team, as to what we're going to look at, what we're going to diligence. When we get to the point as the team that feels that this is really does make sense from an investment point of view, it's the right science at the right time with the right team. There's a syndicate coming together that makes sense. Then we write up an investment memo. It goes to our investment committee and is approved by email. So we don't have to wait for particular meetings to take place or anything like that. So, the quickest we've done something is a couple of weeks. And as Andrea was saying, sometimes this is a year or more that you've had these discussions, and it's really waiting to have the right confluence of data and team, et cetera, to really pull something together.
Christine, if I can follow up, given that you are, affiliated with Merck, most of the VC world is looking for the exit to make a lot of money. Is your exit something different?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I always say we're not financially driven. I'm not supposed to lose money for Merck. That's not the goal. But the goal really isn't to make money. The goal is to bring new, really interesting, hopefully beneficial therapeutics to patients. And so really it's to go into those very early stage, sort of bleeding edge, somewhat crazy ideas that scientists have to potentially approach diseases in a different way, find new targets, et cetera, and really pressure test them and hopefully help bring Merck to bear for those companies. We have all this advice. We want to bring that to our companies as well. So we can, questions on target profiles or clinical trials, or maybe we have reagents and we could do MTA studies. We want to help those companies get to those really interesting milestones and validation points. And ultimately, what I would love to have happen, which Merck has been about outbid on so far on our portfolio, is have them do either licenses, collaborations, or acquisitions. But each time they have attempted this, we've built such great companies that they've gotten outbid. So at the even if that were to happen, there is still benefit that our company sees in having this connection to these early stage companies. These entrepreneurs are in the system and they will continue to be in the system. We learn something regardless of whether or not this is an asset that comes into Merck. And it is important for Merck to be visible and learning. And it really does help, even if we don't end up taking in a particular company, it does help Merck's early stage strategy as well. And we've repeatedly been told that by our CEO, that this really helps Merck to think about, do we bring it in? Do we build it? Do we buy it? Even if it's not one of our portfolio companies necessarily that they win on buying, it's still helpful for them to really think about, how does this fit in, broadly speaking? When is it the time for them to really bring it in? So it's much more about access to really cool, innovative new science.
Great. Tom, let's hear a little bit about your evaluation of potential investments.
Absolutely, Steve. Thanks. So we have a few different buckets of capital at Big Idea Ventures. One is an accelerator style fund that invests in early stage pre-revenue or a small amount of revenue alternative protein companies, brands, and technology providers. So there we will do an amount of money into that cohort. We then spend 5 months with each company doing about 800 hours of equivalent diligence to decide which ones we really want to invest in. We open up our doors twice a year for applicants. We get about 300 people and companies applying. We take the best 12 to 15 from around the world. And Steve, to one of the points you made earlier around COVID, we had locations in New York and Singapore. When we went virtual, we now have companies from India. We have companies from all over the world, which has been helpful to us. If there's one bright spot for the past 18 months, it's been that we've been able to expand our reach globally. And then when they graduate from the accelerator program, we have demo day, and we've helped 75% of our companies raise additional capital, which is a tremendous accelerator success rate. Usually 10 to 15 is good. So we're at 75% right now. So we're doing something right on that model. When we look at companies for that bucket of capital, we're really looking for differentiated positions in the marketplace. We see about 1,000 deals a year in the food and food tech space, and we're looking for ones that we may not have seen before. Unique approaches to solving problems of scaffolding or texturizing or flavoring for alternative proteins. New approaches to pathogen mitigation, packaging solutions for food, etc. So that's one of the approaches we take with that fund. Certainly team, when you're investing at such an early stage, team is a huge part of that, right? Can I sit across from the table from these folks for the next couple of years? Or do I want to run as quickly as possible from the room? And you get that sort of visceral reaction right away with folks. Some folks, they take a little bit while to grow on you. But we've been lucky thus far in making some really great partnership investments. We're spinning up another fund that's going a little bit earlier stage that's partnering with U.S. universities to commercialize their IP in the areas of food, protein, and agriculture. So we're going to be partnering with the USDA and Farm Credit on this to drive rural growth and economic development, partnering with schools, identifying pieces of IP, spinning up new co's, licensing that, and building teams around it. So really excited about what that's going to have in store for our firm. And now we're starting to look at a little bit later stage deals. Right now, as alternative protein as a segment has matured, we're starting to see later and larger rounds being raised. Nature's Fine just raised $350 million. Aleph just raised over 100. I think something like $900 million in the past week or two was announced in the alternative protein segment, mostly in Series B and later stage deals. So we're starting to look at deals in that sector. There you're looking for positions to exit. How close are they to a liquidity event? Are they an ideal candidate for a strategic to come in and buy them out? or is this going to have to be a traditional IPO liquidity event? There's a really exciting time to be investing in food right now. Tons of things going on. And to all the folks doing life science investing, thank you for keeping people alive longer so we can keep feeding them.
I love it. Let me come back to a question that I get from entrepreneurs at the pitch stage all the time. And it relates to a couple of comments that several of you had made. And that is, do I pitch my company, do I pitch my scientific development as a platform technology, or do I pitch it as a particular focus? Yes, there's a platform, but here's what I'm focused on within that platform. And Avak, you had mentioned that the flagship model is looking for those platforms that can build into a host of different avenues. I'd be interested in how each one of you think about that when you are approached by the scientific founder of heavily focused on platform or heavily focused on the particular niche within that platform, or trying to balance both. Anybody can kind of take a shot at that one.
Well, maybe I can chime in. I think there's a couple of important things to be clear about there. I think the definition of platform has to be clear when one asks that question. There are people who call a platform essentially a team of smart people with a bunch of good tools under one roof. There are people who call a platform a bag of assets, and they call that a platform. And then there's other platforms that the kinds of platforms we like to really focus on are those bio platforms that we think are fundamental biotechnologies that can be quite versatile and readily switch from disease area to disease area, or from focus to focus, as you called it, quite readily. And so for us, that third one is the one that we prioritize, and not only prioritize, exclusively focus on. We wouldn't look at any other kind of platform, if you will, as we're creating them internally. So that's an important point. The other is the tension between extreme focus and or lack thereof. We think it's possible to have multiple foci. I think there's a bit of a fallacy in the entrepreneurial world that you should have a singular focus. And I don't think that's necessarily the right approach, especially in biology, when things can go awry, where your platform might be great, your idea might be good for a particular focus, but some idiosyncratic reason or some serendipitous reason that doesn't work out. That would be really a shame to the platform, to the team, to humanity potentially, because of that singular focus on a particular idea and a particular asset. And so we try to be clear that optionality is your friend, and being flexible and letting the science help guide you in evolving the platform and its various directions is really, really critical. Now that's hard because it's an ambiguous message to convey, and it's even harder. Forget convey. It's even a more ambiguous thing to execute on when you're the leader of a company and you're trying to get people to do good work quickly and to build value. But that's part of our mantra. It's part of our modus operandi at Flagship and how we grow these companies. We try not to get too hung up too quickly on just rushing to the clinic with one asset, and being thoughtful about what are the various foci, how do we select them, and what are we really trying to prove with each one, and how do we remain agile and open to the science telling us that we may be on the wrong path and we want to open up a different path without necessarily pivoting the entire platform, just opening up new avenues and maybe cutting down on other avenues.
Yeah. I mean, I think Flagship Pioneering goes into that maybe with a substantial advantage to an entrepreneur that's getting venture capital, because you do have more capital available if you need to pivot, and it's not the same as if a company that is focused has its seed round and then realizes, oh man, it didn't work. We gotta pivot now. We gotta change now, and where are we going to get the capital to do it? that's a little bit tougher model. But let me hear from some of the others.
I can maybe a tangential idea to how do you pitch platform versus focus is to think about your audience. And that's the first piece so Avak, I wouldn't pitch a product to him, right? Like I would sort of make sure I thought very carefully about what Flagship was doing and knew the investors I was going to approach. And you can get a sense of it by looking at their portfolio. Mm-hmm. And in the public, there's so much information in the public, you can also look at when they invested. So you can look and say this venture fund invested when it was one application, or no, they consistently invest when there's 3 or 4 applications and later stage. So you can sort of do your homework first to understand who your audience is. Number one, I think that's really important. But number two, it's very easy to tell with the differences between a platform and an aspiring platform. Meaning, I want this to be a platform because I know that's what this venture capital fund likes. So I'm going to talk about the 5 or 6 things I could do with it, but I really only have information or data on one of them, and the others are just sort of ideas. And so you have to be really careful and straightforward with what do you know about the strength of the technology you have. Does it have the potential to be a platform? Is it confirmed that it's a platform, meaning it's been proven in 2 or more applications? And you've got a roadmap that shows you're planning to build and fund a platform, right? So I think there's sort of the honesty trigger as well of, I want it to be a platform. I'm not sure if it has that capability, and early stage investors get that it might not be set yet, right? So just having that sort of awareness of what you know, what you don't know, and not over-representing a product as a platform is a really, it may be simple advice, but something that sometimes gets missed in trying to sort of take what you have and make it attractive, rather than sort of just funding what you have and setting yourself up for success to pursue whatever roadmap you're highlighting. So those are 2 thoughts that I'd share for the audience.
Great, thank you.
And I might just add one last thing, which is a platform trying to figure out where it could be useful is a very difficult thing for VCs to jump on. So, we always say a platform in search of a use is hard. So really think about whether or not the platform has a good initial 1 or 2 places that you can point it to really understand how it's going to be differentiated and how it's going to be useful. We do see a lot of, I've created this really cool thing and it seems really cool, but I'm not really sure what to do with it. And we can oftentimes figure out where's the right place to point it, but that's a little bit more difficult to get excited about something when you don't really see how is it going to really lend itself to ultimately helping patients, right? So what indication is this going to be interesting for, or what target that is going to be interesting for, and how are you going to initially validate this, especially if it's an early stage platform.
Mm-hmm. Tom, any further thoughts on the topic from you?
We try to simplify it to, I will take a great team with an okay idea versus an okay team with a great idea. Because a great team, I can put anything in front of them and they'll execute against it. And whether that's a single product or a platform or a pivot to be a B2B provider. We have an interesting company called Novel Farms in our portfolio, female founded team out of Berkeley, who are trying to make cellular-based Iberico Serrano ham, which is one of the most expensive ham-based products in the world. And in order to get to a product that mimics traditional hog-based ham, they had to perfect scaffolding. And I'm looking at that company, I'm saying scaffolding is one of the biggest challenges to scaling cellular-based agriculture. I want to sell scaffolds. I don't want to sell ham. Because if I sell, someone made the comment yesterday, the 49ers play in Levi's Stadium. They don't play in the Gold Rush Stadium, right? The companies that provide the infrastructure to drive new industries tend to survive the longest and do the best long term. So when we look at companies that are innovating new food products, a lot of these are innovating IP to overcome certain challenges. We look at that as an opportunity to monetize and sell that as a platform versus a singular product or brand.
You've given me the lead in for another topic of the great team. Many of the folks in our audience today are scientists who are either in academia or recently left academia to create something new. What role do you see in your investments? And if you look kind of what's customary, what's typical, what's unusual, what's the role of that scientific founder, both short-term and long-term? And what do you say to the scientific founder who says, I'm the CEO? Maybe share some thoughts about it. Avak, that may not be quite relevant to the Flagship Pioneering model, but I'd like to hear everyone's thoughts about that and that role of the scientific founder.
Yeah, I'm happy to share some thoughts there, because we're dealing with that with our university IP fund right now. People are saying, well, you're going to take a researcher or a PI out of the lab and make them you're going to build a business around them. We said yes, but we don't expect them to be the CEO, the COO, the Chief Human Resources Officer. They're just not. They don't have that kind of training, and it's not fair to ask them to do that. So our model is take the PI out of the lab, make them an interim CSO, and then put a business team around them that can enable them to succeed, so they can focus on taking the research from whether they're TRL 6 through 9 to a fully commercialized product, but not have to worry about things like benefit packages and legal and marketing and all that other stuff that we busy ourselves with all the time, and let them focus on that science piece. We've met a few researchers who are true rock stars, and they could be CEOs of companies. Those folks are usually readily identifiable by their various skill sets, but we'll probably lean more towards surrounding those researchers with the skill sets that they'll need to succeed.
Andrea or Christine, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say maybe sometimes it depends on for when, right? Sometimes they're a great founding CEO, and then they want to take it so far, and then it needs something different. It depends on how long it's in tech dev. But I think Tom's right. It also depends on just that sort of self-awareness of the skill set you have and the type of company you have. Because maybe for a digital health startup that really needs to be out engaging, taking the tech and wrapping it in a product and putting it in front of insurers or customers or doctors right away, maybe that's a bigger jump, maybe not. So I think it's just having that self-awareness and that dialogue of, if you are a scientific founder and you want to be a CEO, ask yourself, well, who are the CEOs I admire of scientific companies, and how can I get them to help me mentor to get there? Or if not, that self-awareness to say the best thing you can do for your technology is get an awesome team around it that complements your skill set to keep it moving. So we fund a lot of scientific CEOs. But they always have to have sort of that self-awareness, just like a business CEO, on what they're strong at and what they need help with.
Right. Yeah, and I've certainly found that the best CEOs are the ones who know what they're good at and the ones who know that they're not good at certain things, and then they hire the best people they can to do the things that they're not very good at. Let me switch gears a bit, and I'm thinking in particular, since we have Christine, you on the panel, I want to maybe get a little bit of a debate going here on the pros and cons of having a strategic in your investment group. I have experience with that working out beautifully, where the strategic presents to the other investors validation that the industry is going to like this or will expect to like this. But I've also had the horror stories where the strategic is in and then decides, for reasons totally unrelated to the particular investment, that their focus is changing and they're no longer interested in this particular technology, and we're not going to do the second round. And it's the potential of a kiss of death to the company. So maybe the panelists can share some of your thoughts on the pros and cons and issues related to and how to protect the advantages of having a strategic in your investment group?
Yeah, I mean, it's an excellent question, and I think it comes back to what is the strategy, if you will, of the strategic? How linked are they to following the strategy of the parent company or not? So there's sort of a whole range of groups. There's like Novartis Venture Fund, previously SR1 when it was part of GSK, that were financially driven only, and they really weren't linked to their parent company at all, and really acted like an independent returns-based venture fund trapped in a pharma company. And then there are other ones that are far more strategically linked, like a JJDC or a Takeda, who are only investing in those areas that the parent company is researching. So they're only in certain therapeutic areas. Some of them need the approval of the therapeutic area head before they can make that investment. So it's very tightly strategically aligned. It's almost more like a business development kind of view of investing. What are those things that are really going to nearer term help with the pipeline of the company? And then there's folks like us at MRL Ventures Fund that sort of sits in the middle. We see ourselves as strategic because we do want Merck to be exposed to various things, but we're not linked to the therapeutic areas. We don't need therapeutic area approval. We are told actually to go out and be contrarian to what Merck is doing. So we don't invest in things that Merck is already doing. So if they're already working on that target, they already have 10 of those platforms, that's not for us. We want to invest in these new things. So you really have to look at the corporate venture fund and understand what are their goals, what's their mission, how do they view investing? And I think that would really help you in deciding which kind of corporate venture fund will work for you and at what stage. It may be absolutely critical for you to have somebody who could be a potential acquirer, and knowing the therapeutic head has said, this is the next thing I want, it is maybe the right group to have in. And maybe you want a financially driven fund who has some of that access to their parent companies for some advice, but really is much more about long-term, having 20% of the cap table. And then there's us that falls in between that hopefully is providing a little bit of everything. So I think it really behooves you to understand who the company is, what are their goals, what are their missions, and what fits well with you. And frankly, most of us corporate venture funds invest together as well. So, you will often find people who have a couple of different corporate venture funds invested in their company. And it's because maybe they need a couple of those different flavors that they want on there. I mean, I think all of the corporate venture funds tend to be long-term patient investors who want to see things succeed. And so we can, we call money just off a balance sheet, so we can put in money as we see fit. So sometimes that flexibility is also useful.
Great, thank you. Other thoughts from our panelists?
Well, I would say obviously we don't do it in the early stages, and sometimes it's not even on the level of an equity investment. But partnerships are, I know it's not your exact question, but I think partnerships are a really important aspect of the ecosystem and what we do. I think platforms in particular benefit from spreading their wings through partnerships with pharma companies that have particular interests in a given disease area, are willing to put in not just the capital, but also their subject matter expertise and know-how in developing a therapeutic in a new space that they're very comfortable in or they're experts in, and the platform company might not be an expert in, and most likely isn't an expert in. And I think those are really important synergies that we look for all the time. And I think all entrepreneurs should be thinking about that continually. There's the trade-off of giving up, obviously, upside on those products and assets. There's the trade-off of maybe in some ways seeing it as non-dilutive capital, but it is dilutive to some extent. But I think done right and done in the right areas, it could be wildly beneficial and value accretive to both parties. So it's something but it takes a lot of thinking and not just jumping at the first opportunity because it looks attractive and there's money there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would just add on to that, being a recovering corporate venture person, we always encouraged entrepreneurs to talk to each other, and we would give reference, say, go talk to this founder we did a deal with and get a feel for how we are to work with. You will have, if you have business development people doing corporate venture, sometimes you can get some onerous terms around for ROFRs or preferred positions in terms of acquisitions. We always took a position at Tyson that we never want to poison the pool for companies to go out and raise additional capital from financial sponsors. So we would ask for a right of reply if it was a company we may be interested in investing in. If there was a potential commercial deal, we would do that outside of the investment, and we would have a business unit team negotiate that commercial agreement. We wouldn't tie it to the investment. Mm-hmm. We tried to make it as flexible for the portco to go raise whatever they needed to. That was because we were venture people, not business development people doing venture. So it's important to know the group you're dealing with and their personal background as well.
Mm-hmm. Great. I am getting the signal from our fearless leader, Vinit, that we should be starting to wrap up. But I'm going to take the liberty as moderator to give you each a few more comments, perhaps just some key takeaways that the scientific founders, entrepreneurs in our audience might leave with. A couple of bits of advice that you think are key for them as they proceed from this poster pitch phase forward. And maybe looking at my Hollywood Squares thing, maybe we can start with you, Andrea, Christine, Avak, and Tom.
Sure, I'll make it short and sweet. I would just say be patient and persistent. It usually takes longer and is more expensive.
Good advice.
Totally agree. And network, and some more networking. That's how you get to the right folks. That's how you get the advice that you need. So don't ever be shy. Just reach out. People are often willing to give you some free advice and help you get connected to the right folks. So make sure to do lots of networking.
And Avak?
Yeah, I would say I think we believe that we're really in the biological century. We don't think this is just a fad, and so for all the life sciences and sustainability and nutrition entrepreneurs out there, I think you're in the right place at the right time, and you will be for the foreseeable future. Even if there's ebbs and flows in the markets and whatnot, don't let that dissuade you. This is a super exciting time to be in this industry, and you should feel proud and energized and jazzed about it.
Tom, I think you get the last word.
Awesome. Well, we're seeing a lot of applications from both biology, chemistry into the food sector now, even more than ever before. So really excited about that cross pollination. And I would say to entrepreneurs, do your homework on funds before you reach out to them, and talk to other founders. You have a great internal support network there. Lean on each other, and you'll get some great feedback.
Thank you. Actually, I lied. I get the last word. I do want to thank my panel, Andrea, Christine, Avak, Tom. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts, your time. I think you bring a fantastic, diverse perspective to the whole concept of investing in new scientific, life science related companies. So thank you. And to our audience, make the most of today, network, listen, learn, talk. And I'm available, and my colleagues are here as well to talk with you if you'd like to learn more from us. So thank you very much. And Bennett, back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, panelists. I was sort of messaging Steve in the background saying, keep it going. This panel is doing so well. We didn't want to cut it off. But that was quick and very informative. So now we're moving into the next phase of MALSI 2021. And that's going to be the poster pitches. So what's going to happen now is each one of the 19 poster presenters has created a 1-minute pitch, and we're going to play all 19 of them one after another. Keep track of the posters that you want to go visit. So after the 1-minute pitches, you can click on the booths drop down at the top of this page, and that'll take you to all the poster booths, and you can go visit the posters that you're interested in visiting. And remember, when we have the lunch keynote at noon, you will be able to vote on your favorite poster. So you'll be allowed one vote to pick one poster. And we're going to have 2 awards for cash awards for posters that we'll announce towards the end of the event. One for the audience favorite will be $2,000, and one for the judge's favorite, which will be $2,000. As I mentioned, last year's winner, Concerto Biosciences, went on to raise a $1.5 million seed round right after MALSI. So
Treatments in the form of drugs are no longer our only option. It is now possible to use external stimulation to evoke a physiological response. This field of bioelectronic medicine is already disruptive, with implantable devices for pain management and autoimmune diseases. A current urgent clinical need is in the field of organ transplantation. 100,000 kidneys are transplanted worldwide every year, and despite aggressive immunosuppression with drugs, up to 30% are still rejected. Inia Biosciences is developing a non-invasive and personalized wearable bioelectronic device that monitors and reduces the rate of kidney rejection from the comfort of the patient's own home. Our advantage is that unlike a standard dose that you can prescribe with a pill, this device is effective without the life-threatening side effects that you would have to worry about with drugs. Visit us at poster number 1 to learn more about how our disruptive technology can shape the future of medicine.
Bloodstream bacterial infections impact millions of patients globally each year. The result is hundreds of thousands of deaths and significant financial loss. When a patient is suspected to have a bacterial blood infection, it can take days until doctors have the information that they need to prescribe a treatment that is right for this particular infection. A few days is more than some of these patients have. We are developing a tool that can rapidly detect bacterial growth when there is still a very small number of bacterial cells. The assay only takes a few hours and requires equipment that standard clinical labs already use on a regular basis. For LADI, sepsis is just the beginning. Our technology can be readily adapted to detect bacterial growth in a variety of settings, such as food and biomedical manufacturing facilities. Please visit us at poster number 2 to learn more.
Hi, I'm Morteza, the technical co-founder of Awesome Therapeutics. At Awesome Therapeutics, we believe that the current treatment of cancer patients is extremely complicated. Patients have to receive multiple painful injections per month for up to at least 2 years. These multiple injections can be a huge burden both on the physicians and also the patients and cause them to leave the treatment. Lack of patient adherence is costing the US healthcare over $100 billion each year. Our team at Awesome Therapeutics is working on a novel drug delivery technology to dramatically reduce the number of injections instead of 4 injections per month into only a single one. This is a patented and platform technology out of MIT Langer Lab, and our published data clearly shows that this technology works successfully in multiple animal models. Join us to learn more about this exciting and revolutionary technology. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Euros Kuzmanovic, the CEO of Biosensate, a biosensor company. In the US, there are currently 7.7 million females ages 15 to 44 with fertility issues. And the largest reason for their infertility is ovulatory dysfunctions. Fortunately for them, serum progesterone levels can be used to confirm whether or not women have ovulated, their overall ovulatory health, and whether or not they can carry a pregnancy to term. However, a product which can do so quantitatively in real time and cheaply currently doesn't exist. Biosensate's progesterone biosensor will allow women to quantitatively read their progesterone levels just like the gold standard, and it'll reduce anxiety by allowing women to take measurements at home. Our progesterone biosensor will give women progesterone readouts 5 to 7 business days faster and $97 cheaper per test than the leading competition. And this is just the first of many biosensors we're building with our exciting technology. Come by and check out our poster at MALSI. Thanks.
Like mRNA vaccines, mRNA and CRISPR therapeutics are poised to revolutionize medicine. But they continue to be held back by one problem: immune stimulation or inflammation arising from RNA impurities in the manufactured RNA. Immune-active impurities in conventionally manufactured RNA arise from the process itself, requiring substantial and not fully effective purification. While mRNA vaccines benefit from trace levels of mutagenic contaminants, mRNA therapeutics require the complete absence of an inflammatory response. We are developing new mechanism-based approaches to RNA manufacturing that aim to block the pathways that lead to the production of impurities during synthesis, resulting in both higher purity and higher yield of the desired RNA. Our approaches will lead to substantial reductions in overall manufacturing costs, but more importantly, will enable breakthrough technologies that are not currently making it to or through clinical trials. Please visit our poster number 6.
Not many people know that neurological diseases are the largest contributor to global disease burden and accounts for nearly 10% of death worldwide. Until now, the screening and monitoring of neurological diseases like Alzheimer's, multiple sclerosis, and traumatic brain injury depended on MRI, which is expensive, inconvenient, and inaccessible. What if we could have built a biomarker-based liquid MRI for the brain? StarterDX is building the world's first point-of-care diagnostic platform that can detect a panel of neurological proven biomarkers in a finger prick blood. The underlying technology from the Harvard Swiss Institute is intrinsically superior to existing point-of-care diagnostic platform, as it solves decades-old problem of biofouling in electrochemistry and enables highly multiplex detection and sensitive detection of blood biomarkers like never before. To learn more about this chip, please visit poster number 7.
In the past 20 years, cyclic peptides have emerged as a promising new drug modality. They can combine the excellent pharmacokinetic properties of small molecules and the ability of proteins to target large surfaces. However, currently there are only a handful of cyclic peptide drugs on the market. A big challenge in designing cyclic peptides is that they tend to adopt multiple conformations, which are difficult to characterize by experiments. Our team has combined molecular dynamics and machine learning into a program called STREAM. STREAM can provide this critically missing structural information to enable scientists to design cyclic peptides with structures they want. Furthermore, using the structure output from STREAM, we can further train models to predict properties of cyclic peptides. If you are interested in learning more about STREAM, please visit poster number 8.
Following birth, newborns are screened for a variety of rare metabolic disorders, broadly termed inborn errors of metabolism. These disorders result in numerous debilitating physical, mental, and developmental pathologies, and we currently lack treatments for most of these disorders. This leaves individuals that suffer from them in a constant struggle to manage their symptoms and diet while living a normal life and meeting their other nutritional requirements. In the Nair lab at Tufts University and our company Enrich Bio, we are developing solutions for inborn errors of metabolism by engineering therapeutic enzymes that can compensate for the missing metabolic function. Our first candidate is an engineered enzyme for the treatment of phenylketonuria, or PKU. We are currently in discussions to commercialize this product, and are engineering new enzymatic functions to target additional inborn errors of metabolism. Please stop by poster number 9 to hear more about our progress and our future directions. Thank you.
If a baby is born in a rural hospital in Maine, it is up to 6 times more likely to suffer a permanent neurological injury. Neonatal resuscitations are thankfully infrequent but are high-risk events. Only good quality practice can train you for these events. Stemming from the aviation industry, simulation has been utilized for these low-frequency, high-risk events. But simulation labs cost more than $250,000 and are only available at the bigger centers that are geographically far from these high-risk rural hospitals. My research is in creating a completely portable, high-fidelity simulation lab in a suitcase. Using augmented reality, we can provide authentic simulation in the learner's home environment, utilizing their own personnel and equipment while providing expert oversight remotely. We believe that by vastly expanding access to simulation and deliberate practice, we can improve neonatal neurological outcomes across Maine and potentially across the world. Please visit my poster, number 10.
Drug development has been stagnated for 2 decades. What's slowing us down? Cardiotoxicity screening is the bottleneck. 12 years and $2 billion are needed to test one single drug.
I'm Mastrobuoni from Boston University. We built a faster, cheaper, and more ethical screening system using engineered cardiac tissue.
We managed to mold or 3D print tissue scaffolds into industry standard 96 well plate, allowing parallel tissue seeding and culturing. A unique microscope captures the field of view for the whole plate, projects a palm-sized image to a common CMOS camera. In each frame, sub-images of 96 tissue samples are collected into a mosaic. Physiological parameters such as a contractile force can be measured at video rate, 20 times faster than before.
One more thing. All parts in the system are commercial, off-the-shelf products. No additional patent is needed. Thanks to your attention, with raised awareness and support in commercializing this tool, let's find more remedies together and faster.
Pathogenic bacteria loves to grow in hard-to-reach areas. Each year, there are more than 2 million hospital-associated infections, resulting in 99,000 deaths and costing hospitals over $28 billion per year. That's because it's nearly impossible to disinfect small channels, tubings, and pipes, like endoscopes. Disinfection products in the market today rely on harsh, destructive chemicals or work for a short duration. Ultraviolet radiation works really well, but it's nearly impossible to distribute UV light inside of tight channels. Until now, Optical Waters is developing a proprietary nano-enabled optical fiber that can distribute UV radiation through the inner links of pipes, channels, and tubing. Our germicidal optical fibers are thin, flexible, and stable in water. Our first application is to disinfect endoscopes in between procedures and during storage. Beyond that, we're engineering germicidal optical fibers to fit unique geometry configurations and weave them into fabrics to disinfect in ways that have never previously been possible. Please visit us at poster number 12 to learn more. Thank you.
Estrogen receptor negative tumors are very aggressive in nature with poor prognosis. Currently, no blood-based marker is available for screening, surveillance, or therapy outcome measurement of these aggressive tumor subtypes. We have identified a patented, novel, low-cost, high-throughput blood-based marker to detect these aggressive estrogen receptor negative cancer subtypes. Our easy-to-use assay can detect this biomarker from finger prick amount of fresh blood or dried plasma spots. This makes our assay easy to be adopted as a point-of-care kit at a physician's office and also simplifies sample handling and shipment to diagnostic center. To know more, please visit us at poster number 13. Thank you.
Depression affects approximately 322 million people globally, and although antidepressant treatments have been available since the 1950s, depression continues to be the leading cause of disability, with a third of people remaining treatment resistant. There's been recent excitement surrounding the robust antidepressant effects of a naturally occurring neuroactive steroid. However, serious adverse events were reported in clinical trials, likely due to the exogenous administration of these compounds, leading to widespread actions and off-target effects. Our strategy is to harness the body's ability to synthesize endogenous neurosteroids, ensuring synthesis and delivery at the appropriate site of action. We propose that targeting the key enzymes in the neurosteroidogenic pathway will be a superior antidepressant treatment strategy while minimizing adverse side effects. To learn more about the work of Endogeny Therapeutics to develop the next generation of treatment for depression, visit poster number 14.
Disruptive bleeding remains a critical challenge in vascular surgery involving high-pressure blood vessels. Bleeding during the procedure increases the complexity, prolonging surgical times and warranting blood transfusions. Despite the use of existing sealants, perioperative bleeding remains a major complication during and after vascular surgery.
Hemomax outperforms existing adhesives like BioGlue, fibrin glues, and synthetic polymers in all key areas. It easily adheres to wet and moving surfaces, has highly tunable mechanical properties, is biocompatible, and is easy for surgeons to set up.
Our internationally patented technology, supported by our peer-reviewed papers in top journals, have shown that this approach can withstand high pressures and serve as a hemostatic agent in advanced bleeding scenarios.
Nature's toughest glue, harnessed in our material.
Our hearts are truly in this together.
To transform tissue healing for millions of people around the world.
We spend over $1 billion a year on testing for Lyme disease, and we spend that money on a test that basically doesn't work very well. The test gives us a lot of false negatives because it's not sensitive enough early in infection, and we also see a lot of false positives because it's based on an antibody which persists in the blood for years and years, even after the patient's been treated. The doctors deal with these uncertainties in the same way they deal with many problems, which is to throw antibiotics at them. So the failings of these tests are also contributing to a wider problem of antimicrobial resistance. At Tufts, we've discovered a new antibody test that we want to develop into a better diagnostic tool for Lyme disease. Our novel antibody panel comes up faster so we can detect Lyme earlier, and we can also track recovery so we can avoid both the false negatives and the false positives. But by doing this, we can offer doctors and patients a much clearer picture of what's going on during an infection. We're currently looking for partners to help us develop this into a diagnostic tool, so please visit poster number 16 if you'd like to know more.
To date, there are no approved drugs for treating non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, also known as NASH. NASH is a metabolic liver disease with multiple comorbidities, including obesity and high cholesterol. The landscape of NASH drugs in development is very active, with more than 30 programs in biopharma being developed in multiple stages of clinical trials. At Cytotherapeutics, we're developing a drug candidate to treat NASH and have generated very promising in vivo results. Our therapeutic delivers a drug that has one of the most promising mechanisms of action in the NASH landscape. We have generated results in the widely accepted diet-induced obesity NASH model demonstrating a reversal of several aspects of disease, including body and liver weight gain, liver enzyme elevation, cholesterol and triglyceride levels, as well as reduction of fibrosis. Please come visit us at poster number 17.
Did you know that even when hand hygiene is performed correctly, it may not be enough to stop the spread of some infections? On any given day, 1 in every 31 hospital patients gets a healthcare-associated infection, many of which occur as a result of someone's actions. Long before the pandemic, Livonix has prioritized infection prevention and stopping the spread of dangerous germs. We are developing a non-irritating, non-flammable hand sanitizer that can target resistant bacteria, dangerous viruses, and Clostridium difficile spores that current sanitizers can't kill, and we do it in just 3 to 5 seconds instead of 20. We're also developing a fully automated dispensing system using our patented thin spray technology. Simply put, we're making hand hygiene safer, better, faster, and more consistent in healthcare and beyond, because as highlighted by the pandemic, infection prevention is just as important as treatment, diagnosis, vaccination, and cures. Please visit us at poster 18 to learn more. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jyotsna Mehta, CEO of Keva Health, and we are at poster number 19. Did you know that 1 in 13 Americans suffer from asthma and that there is one COPD death every 4 minutes? Did you know that COVID has caused over 4 million deaths over the world? These diseases cost the US economy more than $130 billion. At Keva Health, we are solving this problem by building a complete respiratory care platform. Our platform allows patients to self-manage their respiratory health while also allowing physicians to provide proactive care to patients and optimize care. Data is collected from devices like spirometer and oximeter, and our unique proprietary engine provides self-care right from the patient's home. Visit us at poster 19 to learn more. Thank you for attending MALSI.
COVID-19 has shown us just how much we depend on frontline healthcare workers. Indeed, we rely on these people to help treat the sick without becoming sick themselves. Yet this past year has shown us just how easy it is for highly transmissible diseases to escape from a person's respiratory tract into the outside environment, creating a severe health risk for both neighboring patients and doctors that has really put hospitals in a tough situation. Introducing Airtight, a premier student-run company. Airtight is a retrofit attachment to existing CPAP masks based on memory foam and viral filter technologies, blocking particles from escaping before they can cause harm to others. For hospitals, Airtight allows CPAP, a non-invasive and more comfortable breathing treatment option, to be used in previously inaccessible applications, creating a safer and more happy hospital ward. Yet we're not just talking about COVID-19. Our device can be used to fight other infectious diseases like pneumonia and can even be used for nebulizer drug treatments to generate less waste. At the end of the day, the message is clear. Stop the leak, stop the spread. Visit us at booth 20 because with Airtight, it's that simple.
Drug development has been stagnated for 2 decades. What's slowing us down? Cardiotoxicity screening is the bottleneck. 12 years and $2 billion are needed to test one single drug.
I'm Mastrobuoni from Boston University. We built a faster, cheaper, and more ethical screening system using engineered cardiac tissue.
We managed to mold or 3D print tissue scaffolds into industry standard 96 well plate, allowing parallel tissue seeding and culturing. A unique microscope captures the field of view for the whole plate, projects a palm-sized image to a common CMOS camera. In each frame, sub-images of 96 tissue samples are collected into a mosaic. Physiological parameters such as the contractile force can be measured at video rate, 20 times faster than before.
One more thing. All parts in the system are commercial, off-the-shelf products. No additional patent is needed. Thanks to your attention, with raised awareness and support in commercializing this tool, let's find more remedies together and faster.
Hello, everyone. Sorry about that little hiccup on 11, but I'm glad Rachel was able to play it again. Thank you for that. So what's going to happen now is until the keynote, which is at noon, everybody is free to go to the booths and visit any poster or all posters, and all the poster presenters are going to be there. They will, you can watch these 1-minute pitches, but they will also be pitching in person. So please go to those booths, visit the posters, and then you will get a chance to vote when the lunch keynote starts. And it'll be obvious. There'll be a voting tab next to where the chat tab is. That will allow you to vote for one poster. So every participant attendee can vote for one poster. So we are all now going to the booths and go visit